All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the first October 11th, middle school virtual professional development session. Today, we're going to focus on digital tools that will help you ace your observations. And instead of hitting on a bunch of different tools and kind of leaving you overwhelmed, maybe at the end of the session, we're going to focus on one particular digital tool that we think just kind of hits everything that is expected of you when you're being observed during a lesson. And that is the tools available in Lumio by Smart. So everything we're going to show you is inside of Lumio, or sort of that online version of Notebook that allows you to share your files directly onto the students' Chromebooks or up on your smartboard, depending on how your lesson goes for today. When we look at our agenda for what we want to cover today, we're going to focus on the categories of the observation sheet that is used in AACPS. So, if you were to look at the observation tool that we use, there's basically four big categories that you're observed on, and that is the quality learning environment, preparing for student learning, teaching for learning, and then student learning behaviors. So we've laid out this session and our agenda based on helping you hit those stems in those four categories on the observation tool. Starting off with the quality learning environment. If you take a look at and you read the various stems in this section of the observation tool, you'll pull out some buzzwords, some big ideas that are really the focus of this section of the observation tool. And those are terms like interaction, student access, valued member, active participant, and safe environment. A tool that we recommend you use from Lumio by Smart is what's called Shout It Out. This would be an all student response tool. And what this allows you to do is put up a digital bulletin board for your students. So here we are from the teacher's perspective. I have the ability to start this activity for my class. So I'm going to go ahead, click on Start for Class. And then it gives me directions right here for how my students can get into that. I would have them, Smart's directions say we're going to go to Hello Smart. In ASCPS, we don't need to do that. We have the button for Lumio right there on the students' class link page. So if they were not already in my lesson, they can go to the Lumio button from ClassLink and put in my class ID. So I'm going to go ahead and join this lesson so that I can participate in this one as well. So after everybody has contributed, I would simply click here on review results. You can see we've got one participant. The question is displayed at the top of the board, and then students can contribute their answers. If I decide that this answer is off topic or inappropriate, I can simply drag it to the trash can here, remove it before I choose to share this board with the whole class. With Shout It Out, we're encouraging and promoting student voice. Students can easily share their responses with the whole class. Students can add either text or images, and you determine how many responses each student can add. So let's take a moment and see how to actually create a Shout It Out. So I'm going to go here to my Google Drive because that's the way you always get to Smart Lumio as the teacher. I'm going to select on New, More, and then Lumio. If I choose New here in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see I have all kinds of options for what I can do, including creating a Shout It Out. This is a quick and easy activity for the teachers to put together. You can put the question across the top as we had with ours, but you can also just verbally ask the students the question or write it on a whiteboard that you have in front of the class. If you don't want to put the question up here, maybe you want to choose later exactly what question you want to ask the students at this time, you can leave that blank. Then you can choose how the students' responses are going to be displayed. Do you want them randomized, meaning you have one board and everybody's responses land wherever they land on that board? Or do you want to set up categories? Are you asking the students to give you examples of A, examples of B, in which case they would give you different contributions and choose the categories that those contributions go to? As we mentioned a moment ago, you can set up whether or not the students contribute text or images. You cannot choose both. If I switch to images, it turns off text. So, what do you want the students to contribute to this digital board? And then you can choose how many responses you want to let each student give you. Do you want one response from every student? Do you want multiple? It's entirely up to you when you're setting up the activity. And then whether or not you want to show or hide student names. Do you want to allow anonymous posting? Never anonymous to you. You can always see who responded with everything, but it's low stakes for the students because they don't see the responses from each of their classmates. So now that I have my categorized activity set up here, I'm going to ask my students to tell me about fall activities that they would engage in or summer activities. I've chosen to have them give me pictures of these activities, and that is one per student, and I've chosen to hide the student names. Now I'll select next, and this gives me an opportunity to choose what the bulletin board itself will look like. Classic is just a gray background, nothing to distract, nothing to take away from the students' contributions, but custom allows you to put your own image into the background if you choose. So with the custom, I can pick a picture for each of the categories of my board and give it some sort of a theme or background imagery there to help the students understand the concepts that they would be adding there. Custom default, no image, drag an image, or browse for one from my computer. I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of that and choose finish. Very quick and easy to set up a shouted out bulletin board for your students. Let's continue on. So looking at the next section of the observation tool, we have preparing for student learning. And this one is kind of split into two different categories. We have meeting the needs of your curriculum and your school versus meeting the needs of your students here. So, in terms of the curriculum in your school, you'll find terms like essential questions, lesson outcomes, and school improvement plan. Meeting the needs of your students, you'll find terms like culturally inclusive, accurate content, and global diversity. For this one, we have SMART Response. If you've been around AACPS for many years, you might remember Smart Response. It had an old version that we called the Centios. A lot of teachers referred to it as the clickers or Smart Response. And it was when you had that handheld hardware, you had those little clickers that the students used to join your assessment and answer the questions. Well, no longer do we need that extra hardware. Now the students can join from their Chromebooks, but teachers can still use this as an assessment tool. So we're going to do a quick smart response here. Once again, we're going to get this one started. And we have a picture here this morning, and we're thinking about, is it cake? And then after getting responses from the students, you can pull those responses up and view them for yourself or share the responses with your students. So this is just a quick warm up activity here. It was an opinion question. Nobody was marked wrong, but we can see immediately that we get the feedback here in the results over on the right hand side. I can see how many students answered A, how many students answered B. I even have options to pull those reports out or export them so that I have something that I can print and I can see growth over time, or even share those with students if I would like to. With Smart Response, it can be used as an anticipation guide to quickly and easily gauge students' understanding. The poll and opinion setting gives instantaneous insight into current student understanding, and you can easily duplicate the activity and change the setting to multiple choice for an exit ticket. So by just creating one question, you have your warm up when you set it as a poll or an opinion. Duplicate that single question, change the setting to multiple choice, where now the students are accountable for understanding the correct answer, and you have your exit ticket. One activity becomes the warm up and the exit ticket. Quick and easy. So let's go back into Lumio and see how to actually create a smart response. We're back here on our Lumio dashboard. We would simply select on New, and this time we're going to choose Response here from the options. You can see we've got lots of different question types available. We've got multiple choice, true, false, multiple answer, poll opinion, where there is no right or wrong answer, and even short answer, where the students have a limited number of characters to type out their own response. Great place to put something like a vocabulary word so the students are accountable for demonstrating that they understand the vocabulary. For this example, we've chosen a multiple choice question, and then you would simply select the right answer so that it can now do that self grading that saves teachers so much time. If you need multiple questions, you would simply click the add question option up here, and it would take you right back to being able to choose from the different question types before typing in your question, putting in answer choices. You'll see that you have the ability to attach pictures to the question as well as to each answer. And then when you choose next, you'd be able to see all of the questions in your current assessment, what you had the current answer key set up as, and you even have options over here on the right-hand side to include the title of the assessment and the instructions that would be displayed for the students so that they can work through this independently. If I need to change something, I can choose previous. If I'm happy with it the way it's set up, I choose finish. So again, quick and easy for setting up a 1 or 2 question warm up, and then you can duplicate the entire activity to make it into your exit ticket. So a great way to hit those particular objectives. So a great way to hit those particular objectives from the observation tool. Let's move on to the third section in the teacher observation tool, and that is teaching for learning. Some of those big terms that you'll find in this area are checkpoints, planned tiered questions, differentiation, and literacy. And the tool that we've chosen to help you hit all of these in this section of the observation is the fill in the blank tool that's available inside of Lumio. It allows you to quickly check for understanding at any point in your lesson. You can provide structure for academic language reinforcement, and it's great for struggling learners and new vocabulary practice. With fill in the blank, you can easily model the activity for your students before they get started. So I could show the students how they're supposed to drag one of these little text cards from the bottom of the screen into a blank up here. I can show them how they can change it later on if they start reading the sentence and understanding more about it. And they say, I don't think that goes where I had put it initially. They can easily drag it to a different place. So you can model as much or as little of the activity as you want to for your students before letting them engage on their own. This is also one of the activities that works great if you're using Lumio on your smart board or if you're pushing it out to students on their own device. It works equally as well in either one of those environments. Once the students have completed the activity, they have a check their answers. So they get to gauge their own understanding. They don't have to wait for you to tell them if they're right. They can immediately click to check, and it will put a check or an X next to everything in this activity to let them know how they did in engaging in the activity. You can review or reset as needed for this. Once again, here we are on Lumio, and let's see where you can find things like the fill in the blank. That particular activity is going to be here under the game-based activities, and it is not the only one. You'll see right there, it says we have 12 different templates. We particularly liked the fill in the blank because of that literacy connection, because it allows students to practice with their vocabulary and their reading skills. But you'll see we have lots of different activities that you can choose from here. For something like setting up that fill in the blank, when you choose it, you would simply copy and paste or type your text into this block right here. After you've added your text, you'll be able to define the blanks. One thing I would like to point out with the fill in the blanks is you are limited in the number of characters and the number of blanks that you can have. So you'll want to be thoughtful about the text that you're putting up there. You can see that I've added here a chunk of text from Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, and it tells me right now that I have exactly 61 characters remaining. So if I add more than that, it blanks them out. It doesn't doesn't add them to the activity for the students to see. So you'll want to be thoughtful in the amount of text that you try to use in a fill in the blank. And then similarly, you are also limited in the number of blanks that you can use. So once we've added our text, we would select on define blanks. And now, in order to remove a word or turn it into a blank, you would simply click on it. It's now sort of in blue there, and that's telling you that this is going to become a text card at the bottom of the activity. And the students would be able to drag that up to the blank right there. Once you have selected all the terms that you would like to turn into blanks there, you've got a couple of settings to consider over here on the right hand side, specifically how the students will be able to check their own answers. Only when they're prompted will it instantly tell them, like as soon as they drag a word to a blank, it'll tell them whether they're right or wrong. Keep in mind that doesn't let them, reconsider and move things around as they read more of the text and maybe change their mind, or don't allow them to check their answers at all. Maybe you want to go over this as a class. Once you have everything set up, you would select on next. And then again, you get to choose a background. Do you want some sort of an image or a theme to appear behind this? If you feel that it would be distracting, you have the simple one there, which again is just sort of a plain gray color there. But you have some of Smart's standard themes like monsters, science, underwater. And then, of course, you have that custom option again, which would allow you to upload your own image if you want to, in order to change the whole look of this activity for your students. Once you have it set up the way you would like, you choose finish. Very quick and easy to set up a literacy activity for your students to check their understanding of a concept you're working on in class. So let's talk about the final section of the observation tool here, and that is student learning behaviors. Once again, let's grab some of those buzzwords. What are they looking for in this area of the observation? Analyzing, evaluating, creating, and applying. They want student mastery, independence, connections, and student reflection. And once again, we've pulled out a tool from Lumio that we feel is great for hitting everything in this section of the observation. And that is utilizing the graphic organizers. So here we have a Smart's version of the Freyer model. We're just asking you guys to think about some things that you think meet good teaching practices. So if you're not familiar with the Freyer model, in one corner, the students would put the definition. Opposite corner would be a characteristics. What do you see with that? An example and a non-example. So it's a chance for them to demonstrate their understanding of something when they're working on a new topic or piece of content. There, they can demonstrate whether or not they understand it by expressing it here in the model: the definition, characteristics, example, non-example, and so on. As your students are engaging, you'll see that you have these clickable options here to pull up the students handout and see what they've added to it. You can even engage with the students by selecting on some of the tools that you have available to you here in Lumio. So if you wanted to draw attention to something and say, oh, I really love this answer, I'm going to put a star on that one. Great job. You can engage on the student's handout as well as you're viewing what they've contributed. With these handouts, it is a truly digital handout, no copier needed. Allows students to process, reflect, and make connections at any time during the lesson. You can see student work in real time, easily provide scaffolding or digital and verbal feedback. And the teacher handout option makes modeling very simple. Let's go back to Lumio and see where you can find these handouts and graphic organizers. Once again, under New, we would select anything from this ready-made resources area, like activating prior knowledge, questioning and reflecting, but mostly from the graphic organizers area here. You'll see that you have things like a brainstorming web, cause and effect, content mapping, notes, there's the Freyer model, reading responses, scientific method, so many different options there for the students to share their thinking and understanding of a topic. When you select on one, It is added as a page to your lesson. In this case, with the Freyer model, the only thing you really need to add is the topic that you're asking the students to think about here in the center. And then you can decide right now, before you even share the lesson, if you want this to be an individual handout where every student gets their own copy, if you want this to be a group workspace where you would put the students into small groups and have them contribute together, where they would see the actual responses of the group members on this particular handout. And then the final option is to do a whole class whiteboard. Everybody's working on the same page. Everybody sees the contributions of everyone else in the class as we're building this graphic organizer together. So you have three different options, but the way that Lumio works, if you don't choose the setting now, you can actually choose between those same three options on the fly while delivering the lesson to the students. So maybe you just know right now you want to use the graphic organizer. You're not sure if you're going to do it whole class, small group, or individual. You don't have to choose that setting now. You can do that when you're delivering the lesson to the students and decide, I think they understand it. I'm going to do it as an individual handout instead of any type of group. Remember, you can always model. So that always gives you that option to kind of scaffold the activity for the students. One final thing that we want to talk about with Smart Lumio, if you're used to the program, you've used it before, but you haven't been in here in a while, there is now some real-time student progress reports that are available for the teachers. If you do a super sort, a match them up, or a rank order activity, you can get real time student progress reports. You can see if students are engaging in the activity, how many individual options they got correct or incorrect, how many attempts did it take them to successfully complete the activity. So lots of real time reporting is now available for some of those activities. And then so many of the activities include that modeling option. It helps you check off so many boxes from the observation tool by modeling the activity for the students before you ask them to get in and independently engage. I want to thank you guys for joining us today for our virtual session. If you have any questions about using Smart Lumio, reach out to your e-coach or your school's OIT teacher specialist. That's me. All right, guys, thanks for attending today.